All right, something Paul Finebaum said about Kirby Smart and Nick Saban really caught my ear or caught my attention. Can you catch an ear? Earlier this week, and this was something Paul was talking with. I think it was with Reese Davis, but it was no, actually, it was just with someone he was on the phone with. But the point was the quote here. He's talking about did it matter? Does it matter that Kirby left Alabama? Let me just say real quick, it's obvious that it matters, and it's not putting Nick down. I mean, Nick's won two national championships since Kirby left Alabama. I mean, Alabama's doing okay. Now they're not winning it like they did. Okay, so to review, you had the seventh season, which was bad for Nick. Okay, so that then you had the eight team goes to the national championship game. Actually goes SEC championship game and loses. So the nine team, which is his third team, wins the national championship. The 10 team loses to Auburn and has a three-loss season. The 11 team wins the national championship. The 12 team wins the national championship. That's 3 times in 4 years that Alabama wins the national championship. They narrowly miss out on playing for the national championship in 13 because of the kick six. 14, they go to the college football playoff, are upset by Ohio State. Then they win the national championship in 15. Okay, so he's won 4 national championships with Kirby Smart at Alabama in a period of time of about 7 years or so, 8 years. Kirby goes to Georgia in 16. Alabama plays for the national championship but loses it to Clemson on the final play of the game. Obviously, they win the national championship a year later against Georgia, no less. Get blown out by Clemson in 18. 19, LSU handles business and pushes LSU to the Capital One Bowl. A wonderful Alabama offense with Sarkisian in 20. And then in 21, they lose the national championship game to Georgia. So the things that were not happening in the past, Georgia playing for national championships, are happening now. The things that were happening in the past that are not happening now, Alabama winning 3 national championships in 4 years and 4 in something like 8, that's not happening now either. So when Kirby says Jeremy Pruitt replaced Kirby and did a good job, but Kirby Smart was more than a defensive coordinator. He was not only a protege of Nick Saban, he was like a son. Nick Saban relied on him. Kirby was so smart. I'm not even discussing his recruiting ability and everything else. That's by far the biggest loss from a coaching perspective. Remember that we have an event with Kelee Ringo. By the time you're seeing this, the tickets could be gone, but just check down below. 3 things you get signed, photograph with Kelee Ringo. We're not going to be talking all year to Kelee. We've got a lot of folks that we're going to get through there, but this is an exclusive event, exclusive, and we're going to run out of these availabilities. You've been warned. I've been telling y'all for weeks now, and we're going to run out soon. Get it now while you can. That's Sunday the 20th in Athens with our friends at Red Zone. We cannot do it without Red Zone. They've been awesome through this entire thing. 20th starts promptly at 5:30. You need to be there at 5:30. 3 things, photo, and you get the book. I failed to mention you get the book, but I think so you can get the book signed and 2 other things, or you cannot get the book signed. So this is an awesome deal. Um, I can't speak to the son part. I don't know. I have a son, and the only son I've got is my son. There's nobody else that's like him. That's an understatement. But um, I can't like a son perhaps, and you know, the, having been around the block for a while, Chad Simmons and I, who is at On Three now, we worked together for a long time. We've been friends since, I don't know, 2000, 2001, whatever it is. And I remember the way that he would talk about Kirby when Kirby was at Alabama. And Chad obviously is one of the best folks that covers recruiting that's out there. And it was going to be hard to beat the combination of Nick and Kirby at Alabama. And what we've seen over time, and it's taken time, is that the depth that was at Alabama of players, it's not there like it used to be. The run one running back after another, one linebacker after another. Certainly, the defensive backs are still very good at well, not they're not as good as they used to be. But for years, you'd have elite defensive backs and linebackers and defensive linemen. Alabama still has exceptional players, but it's hard now. This weekend, sometimes people do snap judgments, and they just do. But this weekend, you know, when you watch the way that Alabama has played, not just this season, but over the last this year and in 2021, you can tell now. You can tell now because the guys that are playing now are the guys that signed in 19 and 20. The guys that, it now this program at Georgia, it's been this way for a while, but not forever. Now there's nobody left that Kirby signed in 16 on this team now. Julian Rochester is gone. It's all guys from now. Um, there's none of these guys from the start up of Georgia. Georgia is a fully developed program. Alabama is too. But what you're watching with Bama, for sure, Bama, and probably with Clemson as well, is although it's harder to tell with Clemson, and I'll get to that in a second. You're seeing the dominance is it's not there anymore. The dominance of Alabama is not there anymore. They are still a top three program. They might be the best program. I think the best program is probably Georgia, but it's Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. I'm not changing that anytime soon. But the dominance that Alabama had in winning the way they did in the past, in the years gone by, if you think about Alabama, they would have a game or two in the regular season that would be a fight. 2000, let's just go back to 2017. The 2017 Alabama game was a national championship team for Alabama. They would not beat the 2020 team. I can tell you that right now. But this is how Alabama won those games, okay? They beat number 3 Florida State by 17. Then they won by 31, 18, 59, 66. This is me doing math very fast, okay? 18, 30 something, uh, 38, 14 against LSU, 7 against Mississippi State. They had to save themselves against Mississippi State in 2017. I remember that game. That was crazy. Then they beat Mercer by 56. They lost to Auburn. And then they punked Clemson 24-16 in the Sugar Bowl, and they beat Georgia in overtime. So they had 3 tight games: the state game, the game they lost to Auburn, and the Georgia game. And then they beat Auburn. Excuse me, what is a 14-point win a close win? Because that was what they did to LSU. And then Clemson, they beat them by 18, and I can assure you that game was not super close. But when you look at if you look at their season last year, here's Alabama from last year, okay, and this has been going on this year too. Okay, right on the top. So the Mississippi, excuse me, the A&M game, they lose it by 3. Then they drilled Mississippi State by 40. They beat Tennessee solidly. They beat Ole Miss by 6, LSU by 6. They beat Arkansas by 7. They have to win by 2 in overtime against Auburn. They beat Georgia by 17. What is that? Something like that. Then they beat Cincinnati solidly. And then they lose to Georgia by 15 points this year. And we've already mentioned more games that they've had trouble with. And then they had, and much of the 2010s, whatever they're called. They beat Texas by 1. They beat Vanderbilt by 1,000,000. They beat Arkansas in a tighter game than this shows by 23, I think it was. They beat A&M on the final play of the game. They lose to Tennessee on the final play of the game. They beat State by 24. They lose to LSU on the final play of the game. They're not the same. They're not. I'm not calling them dead. They could win the national championship next year. I don't know. They're going to have to get a different quarterback. They're not winning with the guy that played against Arkansas. They've lost 2 games with Bryce Young. So it is different. It is different. Is their dynasty over? I think these are 2 different things. They definitely had a dynasty for sure from, 9 to, I would say, 15. Okay, 9 to 15, they won it in 9, 11, 12, and 15. That was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's in 7 years they won it 4 times. Now that's nuts. Okay, someone can correct my math. And since then they've won it twice. Once with the 20 team, which might be the best team in college football history, in theory. I would say it was the LSU team from the year before, but whatever. That was unbelievably good Alabama team. Unbelievably good. Um, but all of this has happened. The struggles, there's no question Kirby has something to do with it. All of it, no. No. Something for sure. For sure. He for sure, his departure from Tuscaloosa, his attention to detail leaving, Nick did not have to worry as much about the defense. He hasn't. And Jeremy Pruitt is perfectly capable defensive coordinator. He's never been in Kirby's universe. He was terrible at Georgia. Go back and look. No, this is not a hot take. Look how many times they gave up 40 more than 30 points. That is not terrible is too strong a word. He was not a good defensive coordinator. He was not elite. He was an adequate defensive coordinator. He was not elite. And it's just the truth. It's just the truth. And that's okay. It's what it is. But has Alabama hurt from Kirby leaving? No question. And if you don't think so, you're just a Bama homer.